think one of the big public policy issues today, I assume in Jasper, I know it's in Evansville, I know it's in surrounding communities, is what kind of education do we have? What is taught in schools? It tends to be abstinence only and or nothing, either or. That it's not medically accurate teaching that happens. Where that means where people even talk about terms and how things are transmitted and discussing, heaven forbid, a condom, and how it can protect you against a lot of STDs, 99% effective, some other STDs that are from skin to skin contact, it helps, but it's less effective, and those conversations aren't happening, in health classes like they should be. And when we're talking about medically accurate and comprehensive, we're talking about, how people can prevent pregnancy, let alone, if a kid isn't straight, there really isn't the comprehensive LGBT sex education as part of that education. So it's basically, don't do it, or if you do it, bad things will happen, and we're not talking about it anymore. That is the extent of our education in the schools, and that's a real problem.
And I think it's actually declined over the last 15 years or so. I was a public school teacher for 35 years and just retired last year. And beginning in about 1990, we actually had AIDS lessons in our even elementary textbooks. Beginning I taught 3rd grade, and every year. I mean, and that's the state law. It is to be covered in the curriculum, but the last textbooks that were adopted just 2 years ago did not even mention AIDS until the 5th grade, and it was less than what had been in any previous textbooks. And so therefore, as the teachers are teaching, they're probably doing less of the educating than used to be had also.
One of the lines that struck me when you're talking about the education, one of the lines in the movie that really struck me was, I think it was Matthew Modine who said, we could have stopped this. Can we still stop it? We can. But it takes the education that starts in the schools, in my opinion. It takes parents talking about it. My kids would tell you that they've heard this ad nauseum from me. I used to work in prevention, and there were days they're like, oh, you must have had a bad day at work because here come the lectures again. But I wanted them to be educated because I have a brother with this disease. I don't want a child with this disease. And half the new cases are in people under the age of 25. I think that's alarming. It's the #1 killer for African American women. If this disease was killing CEOs, we would be figuring it out. However, having said that, everyone has to take responsibility to get tested, to use condoms, to be safe. I think where a lot of that comes is from these kids who have to not be afraid to talk about it, and at homes and in schools. But if the education isn't there, it will continue. We could have jobs for the next 100 years, unfortunately, if it isn't stopped. We have 9 people in an 8-month period, 9 new ones for a disease that's 100% preventable. There's some disconnect somewhere. And I think there's probably a lot of disconnects. The thing is, if you talk about education, what we hear is, well, gosh, if you're going to do that, aren't you giving your kids permission?
No, you're not.
No,
you're trying to protect them.
You're providing them with some information. We don't want our kids to smoke cigarettes, but we still provide them education about it.
Right.
We teach our kids, our little ones, how to cross the street if we're not there. That doesn't mean we want our 3-year-olds crossing the street without us. It means we're going to give them the information just in case they have to cross the street without us. So it's the same thing. And we can't bury our heads in the sand. If we don't talk about it, does that mean the kids are going to stop having sex? No. No. It means they're going to continue.
Some people do believe that.
Yes. Yes.
And some organized churches, preach that.
But we still hear people You know, when we go out and we'll still, or at least I do, I'm sure they do as well, of it's the gay disease, or people will even ask, is that AIDS thing still around? Like it's just disappeared. And it hasn't disappeared, you know. We're seeing, at least where we are in Evansville, that it's continuing to increase, which I think is really sad, because we aren't going to talk about it. And, you know, I think we all know what happens if you ignore something. It does not go away. You know, silence, I think somebody on the movie had the shirt that said silence equals death or kill, or silence can mean death if we don't talk about it.